join us and staying tuned to African Independent Television, AIT. I am Nancy Naji, and this is Moneyline with Nancy. Okay, I think I should get started on a note of appreciation. Yesterday evening, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council did, honor the work that I have been doing, at least for the past few years. The chairman of PEBEC, who happens to be the vice president, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, as well as Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who is the special advisor to the president on the ease of doing business. They had the 5th PEBEC Awards yesterday evening at the Aso Villa, and a few of us were appreciated and honored. I want to say thank you to the Vice President. Thank you to Dr. Jumoke Oduwole and the whole PEBEC team for singling out the job I have been doing in the last few years to honor me. This award and this honor is not just only to me, but to the whole of my team, also to African Independent Television for allowing this program to be on for quite a while right now. This is a statement to the fact that perhaps when you are doing what you're doing, some people are watching. Outstanding journalists for our commitment to our business, especially supporting what we should be really. I was telling someone yesterday, I said, oh, okay, the federal government, so they're seeing what I'm doing, despite saying what I'm saying here on the program, that Nigeria needs to do better than it is right now. When it comes to the economy, there's no way to paint it. There's no black and white. 1 + 1 is 2. You must show me the formula if you're saying it's 3. So thank you for that honor. My heart goes out to all of you and everyone that has been making this production worthwhile. Thank you. They said the reward for work is more work or hard work. So thank you again to all of you. It was an interesting evening yesterday. Okay, today on the program we will continue Nigeria's economic health. We'll continue to beam our searchlight on Nigeria's economic health. So much to talk about. If we're talking about Nigeria's economic health, where do we even begin? How do we dissect it? Because there are so many issues. My guest will be joining me shortly, and we'll try as much as possible to see the issues we can take. And I will be, listening attentively to some of the insights and the recommendations he will be giving us to how we will get out of this economic quagmire, as well as May 29th, just by the corner. What are the challenges before the incoming administration, and what are the short-term as well as the long-term solutions? So that's what we'll be looking at on today's edition of the program. Don't forget to join us on all our social media platforms. The accounts will be put on the screen so that you can join us. If you're not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, please do well to subscribe. Moneyline with Nancy TV. If you are not also watching us online, you can watch us online on AIT.live. Yes, we'll stream live there. You can also subscribe to AIT's YouTube channel. So let's get started with our business news. The United Nations has revealed on the April 2023 Trade and Development Report released on Tuesday that crude oil thefts, production decline, and deaths are a threat to Nigeria. The report stated that since 2022, Nigeria has been struggling with a decline in oil production, which has resulted in declining revenues, and this has increased the country's need for international debt architecture to provide timely and orderly debt crisis resolution, as well as improved debt transparency. The UN went further to address the debt crisis in developing countries, which is affecting in-country revenues, especially with increased interest rates. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and Gola LNG have signed a memorandum of understanding to build a floating liquefied natural gas plant in Nigeria. The company announced this development in a Twitter statement on Wednesday, April 26th. Bala Wunti, the Chief Upstream Investment Officer at an NNPC Upstream Investment Management Services, stated that NNPC Limited is strategically positioned to provide clean, affordable and reliable energy to alleviate energy poverty and guarantee national energy security through natural gas. The Delta State government on Wednesday received license from the Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority in Nigeria. Dr. Okowa, the Delta State governor, noted during the ceremony that the state is eager to get the special economic zones working as to put the state in the best position, as it is one of the gas producing states in Nigeria.
The state government has on Wednesday received license from the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority in Abuja. Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, the Delta State governor, noted during the ceremony that the state is eager to get a special economic zone working.
The Delta State is relatively peaceful, and we believe in our state we have put everything in place to encourage investors to come in to invest. We also have the Warri Port, and we believe that the Cocoa Port is something that will be of great advantage also to us. In Delta State, we have two functional airports, one in Asaba and the other one is in Warri, and these are clear advantages in the industry.
Dr. Okowa mentioned that the state has been peaceful, and with everything put in place for the special economic zone, they are ready for investors, the nation, and the rest of the world.
We are ready for the partnership, not only with NEVSA, but with the rest of Nigerians, particularly the organized private sector and the global community. And we're there as a state to ensure that we're able to provide a competitive environment, a peaceful environment, a welcoming environment. And also we work with the rest of Nigerians to ensure that we're able to develop the human capital, which will also be needed for the growth of industries.
Speaking at the ceremony, Mr. Adesoji Adesoba, the Managing Director, NIBSA, who also presented the license, congratulated the governor and stated that Delta State is well positioned and the authority will work with the state to improve its special economic zone.
Special economic zones are a very wise and quick way to develop a country. So we look forward to the business community really gaining from the SEZs and also impacting the country in terms of development.
In recent times, most states have come to understand the thinking of Mr. President in utilizing the Special Economic Zone scheme as a key strategy for economic development. We want more people to be employed. We want productivity to increase. We want the states to be producing competitively.
Delta need a special economic zone, and as I said, it's the first of its kind in Nigeria. It will enable Delta State maximize, fully and truly maximize its natural resources, maximize utilization of its natural resources in oil and gas.
The federal government has disclosed that it has commenced the disconnection of some power firms from the national grid as a result of their non-adherence to the electricity market rules. The federal government explained that the Nigerian electricity supply industry is governed by rules which are absolutely necessary for the viability and sustainability of the power sector, as these rules are sacrosanct and must be complied with by all existing or new players in the sector. The federal government on Wednesday approved a total of 52.97 billion naira for various projects in the Ministries of Education, Works and Housing and Aviation after this week's Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the council chambers of the Aso Rock Villa, Abuja. The respective ministers revealed this to State House correspondents. The projects to be completed include Phase 2 of the 2.6-kilometer long Uto Bridge in Ikenke, Delta State, the headquarters building complex of the National Library of Nigeria in Abuja, and the procurement and installation of radar signaling equipment in 9 airports worldwide. Did I say worldwide? Nationwide. I beg your pardon. All right, moving ahead, the World Bank reported on Wednesday in its latest food security update that food price inflation remains high globally. The Bretton Woods Institution says that inflation levels are greater than 5% in 70.6% of low-income countries and in 90.9% of lower to middle-income countries. This also stated that the inflation rate is above 5% in 87% of upper middle-income countries, some of which are experiencing double-digit inflation, and that 84.2% of high-income countries were experiencing high food price inflation. Olukayode Ekpiton, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at the Bank of Industry, has stated that small and medium enterprises account for the majority of business enterprises globally. Ekpiton mentioned that SMEs were contributing to production outputs, exports, and boosting innovation, which represented hallmarks of economic growth in most economies and contributed between 40% and 55% of the gross domestic product and 50 to 80% of employment in most economies. According to the World Bank, it noted that SMEs possessed great potential for employment generation, improvement in local technology, economic diversification, and development of indigenous entrepreneurship and wealth. The National Pension Commission, PENCOM, revealed in its unaudited report on the pension funds industry portfolio for the period ended 28 February 2023 that pension fund operators invested 121.68 billion naira of the contributory pension scheme in infrastructure from a total fund of 15.45 trillion naira pension assets under management. The total retirement savings account under the contributory pension scheme stood at 9.9 million. Ahead of the planned subsidy removal, the federal government has announced $800 million grant from the World Bank targeting 50 million vulnerable Nigerians, about 10 million households, as part of its subsidy palliative measures. Zainab Ahmed, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, disclosed this to State House journalists recently, and our team was on the street to find out what Nigerians think about the planned subsidy removal.
Ahead of the planned subsidy removal in June 2023, the federal government has announced an $800 million grant from the World Bank targeting 50 million vulnerable Nigerians or 10 million households as part of its subsidy palliative measures. Zainab Ahmed, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, disclosed this to the State House journalists after the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday, 5th of April. Ms. Ahmed underscored that engagements are ongoing with the newly established Presidential Transition Council and the incoming administration to drive the palliative program, which include the need for buses, among various considerations. With this, we took to the streets to get the opinion of Nigerians on the issue.
I'm unaware of this fact. At this situation, I don't think it's something good because we are heading towards another government entirely. I don't think there is anything the masses have benefited so far. Only them know who they will disburse the money to, because I can tell you categorically that the money will not reach the masses.
It's a very big problem to us, because the subsidy itself, to me, they should just allow it, they should not remove it. Before giving the youth the money, how long will they spend the money? How long will they use the money? Because now they are even now have no work, nothing. So how long will they? How much federal government will give to us? People that has money, people that has connection, they will be connected. Most of us that don't even have anybody, our name will not be there.
Removal of fare subsidy, I'm sure it will cause a lot of harm to the nations, because even without the removal of the fare subsidy, we are facing a lot of suffering. Price of things are very high. So when they remove the fare subsidy, I'm sure it will cause more harm than what we are facing now.
It's not a good idea at all. This is not the right time for them to do that. The federal government knows, the present government knows that they are living in less than 40 days they'll be leaving the government. And who are they collecting those loans for the person to come and pay? Who will pay off those loans? Who initiated the idea?
It will go a long way in eradicating poverty. What we are looking at right now is anything that will better Nigerians. You understand? If you are borrowing money, there should be a just cost for it. If this money you are borrowing will yield further result, will bring more money, then there is no problem in getting loan.
We know the way it always be. This is not the first time Nigerians borrowing money that we don't only see the impact of it. It's something that I'm aware of.
It is a very wrong decision on the side of the federal government. The money will not get to the masses. It appears as if they are borrowing the money to enrich themselves. Because when you interview the masses at the grassroots, when you go to the interior area, they will not even know what we are talking of.
All right, that's it from some Nigerians regarding what they think about the fuel subsidy removal. And I must say that it is actually a grant. It is not a loan. A grant is different from a loan. The World Bank is giving Nigeria $800 million as palliatives for the planned removal of subsidy, and that the federal government said will target about 50 million vulnerable Nigerians, so about 10 million households. But the question is there as to how will the federal government target it? I know the federal government will give me an answer now. Okay, Nancy, we have CCT, we have a register of poor people, so we can actually take from there. But anyway, let's quickly let's quickly take you through the markets. Yes, just before we'll take a break. The Nigerian stock market traded in the bullish territory yesterday. That's midweek. We saw stocks like Transcorp, MTN, Nigeria closing in the green yesterday due to the performance of these stocks that I've mentioned, Transcorp as well as MTN Nigeria. The all-share index closed by about 81 basis points to print at about 52,097. 0.62 points on Wednesday. If we take a look further at the market metrics that we experienced yesterday, the volume as well as the market value increased. We saw stocks like Access Core being in the volume chart yesterday. Analysts are saying that they're expecting a similar pattern today. The currencies market, the value of the Naira strengthened at the I&E window. That's the official window. The Naira traded against the dollar at 462 Naira 13 kobo. That's at the I&E window. For the Eurobond markets, we saw some kind of buying activities yesterday on the back of the decline in U.S. oil inventory and the expectation of increased oil price from demand from China. For the bond market, it was relatively calm on Wednesday, while the Treasury bills market was also quiet yesterday as the market awaited the result of the NTB auction. What else is left to say for the markets? Money markets, analysts are expecting that funding rates are to dip further today due to elevated system liquidity. We saw that coupon inflows boosted liquidity at the money market yesterday, causing the interbank rates, the OBB, which is the open buyback, and the overnight rates dipping to about 11.5% for the overnight rate and the OBB at 11.13%. All right, let's quickly move over to other markets, guys, shall we? Do we have that there? For the United States, stock futures are rising this Thursday as Wall Street shared the latest quarterly results from Facebook parent Meta. While for the European markets, what else is happening? European stock markets are a bit choppy this morning. While oil price, let me see what Brent is doing very quickly. Brent is rising slightly this morning. Brent is trading at about $77. Okay, yeah, it's still rising, so to speak. I'm just thinking about how oil was trading, at least in the last couple of months. In the last 1 year, actually, oil price has been pretty high, has been pretty good, but with that pretty price, we really did not go to the bank to get a lot of petrodollars because of the low production here in the country. All right, let's quickly take a break, and when we come back, my guest will be joining me, Eben Jules. He is the country lead Transact RSM International. He'll be joining me, and we will be talking about Nigeria's economic health. Where do we go from here? All right, welcome back to the program. Eben Jules, the country lead at Transact RSM International, is joining me right now. Good morning, Mr. Jules, and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Nancy. Can you hear me very well?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. How are you today?
Oh, very well, thank you. It's raining cats and dogs, as they say here in Lagos. So, you know, in case you don't hear me or the internet connection is bad, yeah.
Thank you for that weather report. We had our own rains here in Abuja, I think 2 days ago. So it's over to you, Lagos. We are already in the raining season, though I think the hydrological services and the agencies responsible have warned Nigerians and warned states that there could be flooding this year, and I hope that they listen. Anyway, we're not talking weather today, but somehow we're talking weather, economic weather, so to speak. So let's get started with fuel subsidy. I don't know if you were watching earlier where we did a report about how Nigerians feel about the planned fuel subsidy removal and the grants by the World Bank to the federal government in the tune of $800 million. I'd like to get your insight as to the fuel subsidy removal. What do you think? And I would like you to juxtapose it against a backdrop of a school of thought. In fact, from our respondents, some of our respondents said that things will be difficult for Nigerians and that they should leave the subsidy. Some of the school of thought also that this subsidy is just a scam, as it were. Is a scam, that we don't know how many liters of fuel that we consume in the country. The figures keep changing, and that the regime should be thoroughly investigated. And if it is investigated, subsidy can actually remain because Nigeria is an oil-producing country. So just oppose your insight on some of these issues.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nancy, for the opportunity you've given me to add my little voice to the issues Nigeria is facing economically. And these issues are at the bottom of all our problems is intention, genuine intention to improve the welfare of the average Nigerian. We've not had leaders who are genuinely committed to improving the overall welfare of the average Nigerian. That is at the bottom of it. Why this is important is because if you have genuine intentions, you would always look at issues holistically. You're not going to look at how to just firefight one particular issue. An example of such firefight approach would be the recent Naira redesign policy and cashless policy that made some people suffer seriously. The second issue is that there is no consequence for bad behavior, if you like, or bad management when you or abuse of office. The consequences are not there. There are people who have abused their offices based on policies, or people who introduce policies just to enrich themselves over the years and nothing has happened to them. Now, let me explain very clearly, Nancy. The people who use the word scam are not far from the truth, and there are many facets or ways of this scam. My own position very quickly is that if we continue to have different exchange rate regime, and you go ahead to remove subsidy, the scam will continue in another way. It will continue in how the importers, if NNPC is no longer monetizing it will continue in how the importers access foreign exchange. So if you remove fuel subsidy and the fuel price goes up to say 800 naira a liter from 180, the average Nigerian will start feeling the pain immediately. But if the importers are able to access dollars at 460, while the average genuine businessman is forced to source his dollars from the open market at 740, the person who is importing for has continued to come one way or the other. So I think a serious government will first of all look at, do we really want an open market economy? If we do that, the first thing we should be thinking of would be to eliminate the multiple exchange rate regime that we have. Then we truly have an open market system, where people can use their money, access dollars, import, sell. You know that what is the true cost of importation? As it is, the true cost of importation cannot be measured where there are multiple exchange rate regimes. So that in a nutshell is my own initial contribution. But if you have other questions, we'll take it off from there.
Yeah, let me just follow up on what you said. Should I allude to the fact that the different exchange rates that we have right now in the country, because I just mentioned earlier, the official exchange rate is as at yesterday, close of business yesterday, 462 naira. We're seeing also the street market rate is higher than that. Are you saying because of that differential in exchange rates in the country that is also impacting petrol importation in the country, so anybody can just put any price? Is that what you're saying? Is that why we're seeing those discrepancies?
What I'm saying is that is the scam at the bottom of our economic issues. A few years ago, an eminent personality, a former CBN governor, an emir, a prince with a blue spoon, said a lot of big men need not do anything anymore in Nigeria. You just cross your leg and you get allocated $1 million, and a man collect it, and the next day you make immediately in 5 minutes you make $1 billion or something. A member of the House of Rep from Kano State, I think he's Honorable Dogunwa. I may be wrong, but I believe he's the one who has said something similar. This information is out there, So if any government person wants to do you a favor, he gives you dollars at the official exchange rate, which you can immediately sell at open market. So, and you sell it at the open market, you're already making 300 and a margin of 350 naira for every single dollar without raising your finger. If you don't eliminate that system first before you go on to remove fuel subsidy, you are just tightening the nozzle. You are tightening a rope on the neck of the average Nigerian, because again, just like we average Nigerians, the masses suffered the cashless policy, which some of us saw clearly, and we warned everybody at that time. I'm again telling you that if you remove fuel subsidy and you don't tackle the multiple exchange rate regime, what you're going to have is this scam will continue. It will only continue this time through how people access exchange rate, but the average Nigerian will just bear the increased price, but the impact of that open market which the government wants to achieve in fuel subsidy will not be seen. The fuel subsidy will continue. The fuel subsidy scam will continue in another way, in how importers or licensed importers, if this is open to others outside of the NNPC, access foreign exchange. So I'm saying, don't put the cart before the horse. Put the horse and let the horse draw the cart. And in this instance, the first thing you should do is eliminate the obvious fraud that is there, the obvious scam that everybody can see, which is a big man can easily access dollars at official rate and sell it immediately at the open market rate. Eliminate that loophole first before you start talking of subsidy removal.
Okay, but Mr. Jules, as of now, I do know that the NNPC Limited is the only entity that imports fuel. And they do that at the official exchange rate. I don't think they do that with the street price, because there are no marketers that are importing right now. The NNPC Limited is the official, importer of fuel. So it's not doing that at the black market rate, because I do know that the currency change it's the official rate through the Central Bank of Nigeria. So
okay, Nancy, I'm not cutting you, but I'm looking at issues holistically. I'm looking at the entire Nigerian economy, and I'm telling you what the real issue is. The real issue is that there are limited inflow of foreign direct investment. If you check the amount of foreign direct investment that we have attracted over the last 10 years compared to the 10 years prior to that, there's a significant decline. And we work directly with businesses. We work directly with investors coming to Nigeria for the first time. And inability to access foreign exchange freely, inability, you bring in your dollars, you're unable to take it out freely, is one of the reasons foreign investors fear to come invest in this market. And I'm also telling you that there are two very eminent personalities that have told you that to they exploit that loophole to enrich themselves. Because if you the official exchange rate is not you can bid for it and it's not available. We are all witnesses to what the airlines were talking about. Air ticket prices are skyrocketing because the airlines are saying we sell air tickets in naira, we are unable to repatriate our money back to our home countries in dollars because we spend dollars where we're coming from, we don't spend naira. There are many businesses like that. So now, if you go ahead and start a regime where you open fuel importation to only NNPC, don't forget that if you remove fuel subsidy, one of the immediate impact is that only NNP, there will no longer be a monopoly of importation by NNPC. That is the implication.
So do you think that the prices will reduce?
Trying to make
Mr. Joss, can you hear me? If the market is if the market is indeed deregulated, as it were, and we don't see the NNPC only bringing in products, do you think that that would stabilize the price of petrol? Have it in mind have it in mind that diesel, it's deregulated. Kerosene, I think, is also deregulated, but we're seeing that the prices of those commodities are also high. So with the issue of, okay, let everybody go, marketers can assess, do you think that it will stabilize the price of petrol?
There are two different things. The price of petrol, the stability is based on international events because petrol, diesel, PMS, they're all international commodities whose prices fluctuate based on global events. Wars, United States government stock levels. So stability of prices based on international events will always be exposed to that as long as we, our energy sources are these things, However, availability, that is one, and the fact that availability, which is one of the biggest things, and artificial scarcity that creates price hikes that enrich a few people unofficially, where official selling price of petrol today at 180. If you take a drive from here to Kogi State, I can assure you that you would find very few gas stations selling you petrol at 180. Okay, so already they are already selling if you get 250, 280, you will be happy to pay because all you're bothered about, all the average person wants is availability. And when things are freely available, then you can be sure that the prices will move towards the open market price, which is already happening. The open market price for petrol in Nigeria is not 180, it's closer to 280. So what I'm saying is that eliminate all these artificial barriers, you crash the price closer to open market, but you should do that first for the foreign exchange market because that is what drives a lot of things. If you're really interested in fixing this economy, the first thing you should do is not to be talking about fuel subsidy removal, is to talk about cleaning up our having a single foreign exchange regime that is market driven. That is the first reform you should do. Then next, if that happens, automatically, if NNPC is unable to recover its cost at open market prices, then fuel subsidy would automatically be removed. Then we'll know the true cost of subsidy at that time, and then we'll talk about how best to apply the grant that the Nigerian government has received. Grants of such nature are not meant to be shared to individuals, irrespective of their list. They should be used to provide critical infrastructure, critical intervention infrastructure that makes life easier for the average person rather than to be given out as cash grants to individuals based on sometimes the political voting list. So I think that intention, genuine intention to develop this country is what we need from our leaders at the top, and hopefully one day we'll have it. Look at everything holistically, not just attack one thing at the, without looking at the impact or looking at the root causes, which is what we are talking about here.
Okay, Mr. Joe, how do you think that the exchange rates should be normalized? The official rate is 462 as of yesterday. The street rate is going for over 700 naira. What do you think can be done, that we can get this solved? Because there was a time in Nigeria that exchange rate was normal for years. I think about 150, it climbed to about 165, then it went to 195, and at that time we were crying, then it went to 210, but now it is 462. What can be done to normalize exchange rates? That's one. The second question, since we're also talking about oil, is oil production. Of course, I think since December last year, we've seen our oil production soaring up to about or over 1 million barrels per day. We saw towards the middle of last year, almost to the end of last year, that Nigeria's oil production volume was very low, and we saw that oil price was trading close to $100 last year, and we weren't even making money from it. Instead, we were more indebted. We were just piling up our debt profile. So I would like you to attend to these two questions.
Okay, Nancy, you've asked so many questions at the same time. So some of us are growing old, so it's not so easy to look at all these questions at the same time. So, but the first issue you raised, which is talking about
exchange rates.
The exchange rate. The first thing is, in any sector where we chased the government out, there was progress. You can check the history of Nigeria. Take, for example, today now, everybody has a telephone. Internet access continues to grow every year, irrespective of the economy. That was because by 2021, when the GSM companies came in, Nitel's monopoly of our telecoms was eliminated. So the government companies and government's overbearing influence in that sector was eliminated. And what happened? The inefficiencies in managing those things showed clearly when the government company Nitel died. But what has happened since then? The private companies that are running the GSM companies are some of the biggest companies in Nigeria today. They've grown exponentially. So what I'm saying is, government has no business fixing exchange rates if we are running a truly open market economy. There's no open market economy where the government fixing exchange rate. Even if you want to fix exchange rate and you have we are not earning enough dollars to sustain 462. That is the fact. We are not earning enough dollars, and we are not earning enough dollars because the foreigners who bring in dollars, since we spend naira, do not want to come in here, because every time they bring in their dollars, they struggle to take out their profits, even after paying all the taxes, because the dollars is simply not available in the banks. All of it is being used to fund fuel importation. So I'm saying, fix that, irrespective of what the rate is. It is better to know that government has no hand at all in what the naira's value is, than for government to be fixing artificial exchange rate values that are not sustainable, that does not measure, is not a good indication of the direction of the economy. So if government is not fixing exchange rate and it is determined by market forces, naira will find its true value in the market. It will be based on market forces. We don't know what that is, but demand and supply will fix what the true value of the naira is. And I'm saying, if you do that, you close a very big hole of scam that connected people currently perpetrate to earn money without doing any work. Because if I'm properly connected as I speak to you, Nancy, Someone can allocate me $1 million. There is not even naira backed. And right there, within 10 minutes, according to a very high-ranking member of the House of Rep who disclosed this, within 10 minutes, he said, you will get an alert from your Bureau de Change person who is willing to buy that $1 million at 760 or 740. Meanwhile, it was given to you, and you are supposed to provide 450 to or 460 to the CBN or to the bank who allocated it to you. So in 10 minutes, you make the difference between 740 and 430. About 300 million naira in 10 minutes is made by a connected person in Nigeria, taking advantage of all this. Now, how many connected persons do you know there are? Once you're a politician, that is why it's easy to buy a house every day if you are well connected here in Nigeria. While people who work very hard to earn legitimate income, those are the people that drive economies global. Those are the people. When you say economy, it is the people who work. It is not people who use their phone illegally. So what I'm saying is close that door of scam. Close it immediately by eliminating the multiple exchange rate regime that we have. The second issue you talked about is a consequence of all these things. When you are doing all these things, genuine investors are running out of Nigeria, even in the oil and gas industry. So naturally, our production volumes will fall.
Let's do what we can to making sure that our ordinary households don't fall into hunger, they can't feed themselves.
If you continue to do the same thing and expect a different result, then there's something wrong with you.
But there's a field for everyone to play, and we see a potential contribution of all partners, including local oil companies, in the short term and also in the long term.
But what we're discovering now is financial resilience matters.
This is where we keep you up to speed with everything in finance, business, markets, economy. After all, it's Moneyline with me, Nancy. So welcome again, and let's do it again today. All right, welcome back. Eben Jewels is still with me, country leads Transact and RSM International. Mr. Jewels, sorry for that. You initially warned us about the weather in Lagos where it's raining cat and dog, so I guess that is interfering with the network connection. But as we end the program, I would like to get your comments, because I know the kind of work that you do here in Nigeria. You also talk to people, investors that want to come into the country. I'd like to get your insights regarding Nigeria's banking industry. SVB signature, the Silicon Valley Bank. There's also Signature Bank. You know, so many things in this head. Okay, SVB collapsing. What do you think? What are the lessons we can learn? I just came back from Washington, D.C. And in fact, I attended the session that talked about the fiscal monitor as well as the global financial stability of the world, and the issue around banks sufficed. And while I was there listening to the conversations going on, I was just saying to myself that this problem could actually be more than they want us to know. You know, but they will not want us to know that. Talking about European banks and US banks. But what do you think are the lessons we can learn here? And do you think that our banks are adequately regulated?
The lessons are that bankers should learn to manage, regulate their appetites for profit, right? For instant profit, for quick profit. If you put depositors' funds into junk bonds or into bonds that are going to give you immediate returns without looking at the risk properly, even sovereign bonds issued by governments, when a government defaults, it pulls a lot of people down with it, especially banks. For Nigerian banks, I think we should be looking more at things within Africa. For example, I know that a lot of banks were exposed based on their investments on the Ghana government bonds. And if the Ghana government bonds, if the rating for the Ghana government bonds was reduced to close to junk status recently, it took a lot of banks with it, because the yield from investment in bonds issued by the Ghanaian government was one of the highest in the world. And if we don't take care, if our own bond rating keep getting reduced over the next 4 or 5, over the next 4 years, for example, we don't find a way to fix our economy, we'll pull our banks down with it. So what I would say is that banks in Nigeria in particular should note that even though some of the safest investments you should have should be ordinarily government bonds, but what's clear is that a honest businessman in our own environment is a better investment than government bonds issued by corrupt and insincere government. So I think that in a summary is what it is. Instead of rushing to your money in government bonds, where the government is a corrupt government that is insincere, they're not using the bonds to do what they say they want to do, and the risk of loss is very high. And when they default, all your depositors' funds will be gone. But if you use that fund to say, okay, let me invest in a honest businessman, then you stimulate the economy, and you balance your risk.
Okay, I think we're going to leave it at that, but you've raised some interesting sides to the questions which I asked, the issue about Ghana. And I know that Ghana's economy and our economy are not really exposed to the same vagaries right now. Ghana is in a real economic mess. At Washington DC 2 weeks ago, while I was there, of course the IMF is giving Ghana about $3 billion. The city is really off the roof, so it's not really experiencing the same economic mess as Nigeria is. I wanted to put that by the way. And some other interesting thing I'll take off is Nigeria's exchange rates, which I will look at, especially as this new incoming administration will take over May 29. What are the perspectives that this new government will bring that may, make Nigeria beautiful again before the eyes of investors? But thank you very much, Mr. Jules, for joining us today. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much.
All right. Jules is the country lead at Transact and RSM International. We've been talking about Nigeria's economic health from a different perspective, not just about GDP. When you're talking of economic health, economists will tell you GDP, but it's more than that. All right, that's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you all for joining us. Before I go, it's Freedom Day in South Africa today. Yes, it's South Africa's Independence Day. South Africa 29. Yes, before I go, this day is to commemorate the, sacrifices, the lost lives. People like Nelson Mandela, what's his name again? A lot of them that sacrificed for South Africa to be what it is today. So it's Freedom Day in South Africa. So extending a heartfelt commemoration to South Africa. Don't forget, South Africa is the second biggest economy in Africa. Some people say it's most advanced. Nigeria is the biggest, but that's also for argument. I'll see you all again tomorrow. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. Bye now.